Hello and welcome. Tonight, Nigeria Labour Congress gives federal government until Wednesday, June the 7th, to reverse pump price of petrol or risk a nationwide protest and strike action by workers. After days of speculations, President Bola Tinubu picks Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabamila as Chief of Staff and former Governor of Benue State, George Akume, as Secretary to the Government of the Federation. President Bola Tinubu holds closed-door meeting with former Delta State Governor James Ibori and immediate past Governor of Rivers State Nyesom Wike, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, all from the People's Democratic Party.
On business news tonight, global food commodity prices hit a 2-year low after further declines in May.
On sports news tonight, Manchester City confront Manchester United.
And we begin with the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, giving the federal government until Wednesday, June the 7th, to reverse the pump price of petrol or risk a nationwide protest and strike action. NLC President Mr. Joe Ajaero announced this at the end of an emergency meeting of the National Executive Council in Abuja, where he also asked President Bola Tinubu to investigate payments for subsidy under the immediate past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
The removal of subsidy for petrol continues to generate dust, and the Nigeria Labour Congress has summoned this emergency meeting of its National Executive Council to deliberate on the matter.
See you out on the picketing front.
First, the president of the NLC, Mr. Joe Ajaero, briefs the media.
The issue of subsidy has not been probed all these years, and for anybody to close that chapter is like covering fraud. The Nigerian Labour Congress has called the NEC members for us to interrogate some of these processes, to know who and who we are collecting the subsidy money.
The meeting goes into a closed-door session, and human rights lawyer Mr. Femi Falana takes the moment to address the media outside the hall.
NNPC Limited, a private company, was alleged to have fixed the prices of petroleum products or jacked up the price. It is clearly illegal. There is no provision for it under the law. So we hope that the government will have to go back to the drawing table and take the whole month, the month of June, to meet with relevant stakeholders, to plan and look for alternative solutions to the problem. And there are alternative solutions. We must learn from what other countries are doing to address this, the dollarization of economy.
Nigerians have been paying through their nose for petrol and for transportation amidst other economic consequences since the pronouncement by President Bola Tinubu on May the 29th that the subsidy regime for petrol is gone. But the NLC National Executive Council has taken some major decisions, including not talking to any person without a portfolio. The president briefs the media.
The NLC decided that if by Wednesday next week that the NNPC refuses to revert itself for negotiation to continue, that the Nigerian Labour Congress and all its affiliates will withdraw their services and commence protest nationwide until this is complied with. The NLC NEC therefore directed all state councils and all industrial unions to commence mobilization from this moment to make sure that this action is enforced.
NLC has spoken, but will the government yield? Both parties are expected to meet on Sunday, June the 4th, 2023, and Nigerians are hoping that the dark days will be averted. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Trade Union Congress, TUC, says its Executive Council will continue to engage the government regarding the ripple effect of palm price adjustments on Nigerians to June the 4th, 2023, when it expects to meet with representatives of the federal government. The TUC president, Mr. Festus Osifo, disclosed this after the National Executive Council meeting. He adds that labor unions should have been engaged before the government announced its decision.
Africa is discussions should continue, while we demand that government should reverse back to status quo ante. So status quo ante should be maintained while discussion continues. And because of the fact that we had a meeting with government on Tuesday, on Wednesday, we had a discussion with the representative of government on Wednesday. And during that discussion, they gave us a list of what they think they would do. And they demanded from us, what is our thinking? What are we putting forward? We told them that the list or the things that we want to put forward, we will not submit them now. That we are going back to our organ to discuss with our organ and take mandates from them on the things we can put forward. So we will tarry till Sunday, where we will meet the representative of government. Once we are done with the meeting with the representative of government, with the demand that the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria is going to put forward, it is now how they react to those demands that will now determine our next line of action.
And after days of speculation, President Bola Tinubu today announced his first set of appointments. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, who was named Chief of Staff, while the immediate past Minister of Special Duties, Mr. George Akume, to serve as Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF. The President made the announcement today when he met with the Progressives Governors Forum at the State House the first time since his assumption of office. He also underpinned the need for governors to embark on soul-searching and review the minimum wage as the federal government digs deep into the nation's revenue with a view to strengthening it. Our State House correspondent Gloria Mizuke reports.
Activities resume in the council chamber at 11 a.m. as about 16 governors of the All Progressives Congress under the aegis of the Progressives Governors Forum, or led by its new chairman, Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, converged to meet with President Bola Tinubu in a first meeting since his assumption into office. After days of intense speculation and unofficial confirmation of the president's choice of chief of staff and other key appointments, President Tinubu finally announces his first set of appointments after 3 days in office.
I'm going to be making 2 announcements today. I'm going to appoint Femi Gbajabiamila as the chief of staff. And I'm going to announce George Akume as SGF.
Meanwhile, the new Chief of Staff, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, who had 24 hours ago craved patience on the matter, expressed appreciation on his Twitter page to the president. He says, having spent 20 years in the Nigerian parliament and winning a 6th-term election, I will work with the president in discharging the enormous task ahead. He further adds that I will give my best when I take office on June 14, 2023, as reflected in Mr. President's official letter, unquote. Meanwhile, against the raging lamentation in the wake of the fuel subsidy removal, the president vows to prioritize the subject of minimum wage.
We need to do some arithmetic and soul searching on the minimum wage. We will have to look at that. We are digging deep into the revenue of the federal government. We must strengthen the source and application of those funds.
The president, who has been meeting with various groups, including security agencies, makes no bones about his intention to work, consult, and listen to advance the nation's fortunes. Addressing State House correspondents, the PGF chairman, who led 6 governors, further illuminate on the fuel subsidy removal.
I don't want to agree that if we don't come out and say petroleum products must be subsidized, that Nigeria will not grow. The thing is pulling Nigerian economy down, and by extension, pulling the country down. So we must rise as a people to support the elimination of revenue leakages in our system, so we can grow an economy that will be home-based.
The forum further appealed to Nigerians to calculate the gains that would accrue from the subsidy removal before the situation incapacitates the nation's economy. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And staying with the presidency, it was indeed a busy day for the president, as he also met with Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, former governors Nyesom Wike of Rivers State and James Ibori of Delta State. Now, after over 2 hours, Governor Makinde, speaking on behalf of the group, told State House correspondents that the fuel subsidy removal was among matters discussed.
For us, we have to support him, and we have to let him know that he has started well, and he has the support of the generality of the people. And we know it's a tough decision for the people, and it needs the support of everybody to see this through.
Any plan to switch over to APC? No plan?
No plan.
No plan?
Never to be in the office.
So this is just a thank you or welcome visit?
We are Nigerians and we have come to give you support.
You just heard the former governor of Rivers State debunking whether he plans to dump the PDP. Meanwhile, the Tinubu-Shettima ambassadors, in conjunction with the National Forum of APC World Chairmen, are appealing to the National Working Committee of the party to review the zoning arrangement for the 10th National Assembly, as announced by the party. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Director General of the Tinubu-Shettima ambassadors says the current zoning arrangement represents a marginalization of the people of the North Central geopolitical zone who voted massively for the emergence of President Tinubu.
We, the Tinubu-Shettima ambassadors and the National Forum for APC World Chairmen, in the spirit of fairness, equity, justice, inclusiveness, national cohesion, and unity, hereby call on the APC National Working Committee, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, the governors, the chairman of the Governors Forum, and the party national chairman, to look at the zoning arrangements and accommodate the North Central Zone in order to give each zone of the country a sense of belonging. Thereby, we resist any favoritism, preference to any section of the country, and no region should be marginalized, excluded, or sidelined. We are fully aware that the Northwest has been given 2 presiding officer positions in both chambers of the National Assembly, the Speaker and the Deputy Senate President, by the APC National Assembly zoning arrangement, while the North Central was sidelined. This has created an image of favoritism towards the Northwest and marginalization against North Central geopolitical zone.
In part two, after the break, immediate past governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, refutes claim of misappropriating 4 billion naira, says petition to EFCC was written by a faceless group. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us. Closed-door meeting with former Delta State Governor James Ibori and immediate past Governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, all from the People's Democratic Party. And officials say at least 80 people have been killed and hundreds injured in a multiple train collision. Lorry for questioning by the anti-graft agency. A former Minister of Women Affairs, Mrs. Pauline Talon, was at the Abuja Zonal Command where she was quizzed by operatives of the Commission. The former minister, who arrived at the facility on invitation at about 12 p.m., was grilled by investigators of the Commission. Although details of the allegations against the ex-minister are sketchy, a competent source familiar with the case told Channels Television that it borders on alleged corrupt enrichment to the tune of 2 billion naira, part of which was allegedly diverted from the African First Lady Peace Mission project. Meanwhile, the immediate past governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, has refuted the claim that he is under probe by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over an alleged 4 billion naira fraud. In a statement by his spokesman, Ahmed Sajo, Dr. Fayemi says during his visit to the EFCC on Thursday, no such allegation was raised during his conversation with officials of the anti-graft agency. Mr. Sajo, however, notes that Dr. Fayemi did, during the conversation with the officials of the EFCC in Ilorin, responding to a frivolous petition from a group that was trying to soil his good name and image, adding that the visit by the former governor has provided answers to the agency's inquiries regarding the petition. The Ondo State Assembly Speaker, Right Honourable Bamidele, is denying reports that he has resigned his position as Speaker. In a statement he personally signed, he clarified that the purported letter in circulation is the handiwork of fifth columnists who are bent on throwing Ondo, particularly the House of Assembly, into anarchy. The statement reads further, "Let me tell members of the public that the purported letter of resignation did not emanate from me as it was forged by the purveyors." He also explains that it is not in receipt of any letter regarding his purported resignation, which gives credence to the fact that the faceless writer is not informed of the process through which such weighty exercise can take place. We're off to Abuja for more stories. Gloria is waiting. Hi, Gloria.
Thank you, Millicent. The Presidential Election Tribunal sitting in Abuja has admitted more evidence from the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, as he presented additional certified true copies of election results, forms ECA 8, from 8 states as evidence to back up his claims. The tribunal, at the resumption of the hearing on Friday, admitted the evidence from Rivers, Bayelsa, Edo, Kogi, Niger, Adamawa, Oyo, and Lagos State in spite of objections from the respondents. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, also called up 3 more witnesses to testify in their case.
Counsels of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, those of the Independent National Electoral Commission and President Bola Tinubu are all in court as the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal opens for hearing on Friday. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party and his running mate are also in court. The tribunal admits additional certified true copies of election results from 8 states presented by the petitioner, even though counsels to the first and third respondents are opposed to it. The matter is later adjourned to Monday, June 5th. Next for the court's schedule is a case of the presidential candidate of the PDP, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, versus President Bola Tinubu, the APC, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The lead counsel to Mr. Atiku Abubakar called up 3 additional witnesses to testify before the tribunal. The 3 witnesses who served as PDP state agents in Niger, Ebonyi, and Borno states told the court that the results were manipulated at the polling units, wards, and local government collation centers. However, under cross-examination, the 3 witnesses admit that they did not visit all the polling units on the day of the election, but got reports from their colleagues who monitored the process.
We have already tendered our documents as the petitioners. So this is the process of calling oral evidence in support of the documents we've already tendered. Yesterday we called a number of witnesses. Today we've called another set of witnesses. And as we progress, as the days unfold, we'll continue to call witnesses as the case may be.
Having exhausted all the witnesses for the day, the court then adjourned to Monday, June 5th for further hearing.
In Oyo State, the Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Ibadan has dismissed the case brought before it over the declaration of Governor Seyi Makinde as winner of the March 18 governorship election. The Action Alliance and its candidate Babatunde Ajala filed a petition at the Governorship Election Tribunal to challenge the outcome of the 2023 Guber election in the state. Ajala, who had a total of 387 votes, earlier pleaded through his legal counsel, Mr. Itibo King, to discontinue the suit against Governor Makinde. The 3-man panel, chaired by Justice Edziro Umudairo, in her ruling at Iyogonko Court, Ibadan, awarded a cost to Ajala to compensate the respondents, INEC, with 100,000 naira, while 250,000 naira each was awarded to Governor Makinde and the PDP.
The tribunal has dismissed the petition and awarded costs against them. But there is one thing that is very clear, which I made to the tribunal, and that is to the fact that candidates and political parties who performed abysmally in an election should not be allowed to come to court to fish and waste valuable judicial time.
It was not a judgment, it was a ruling. So it was a ruling on our application to withdraw. We actually withdrew the matter in the interest of justice, in the interest of peace, in the interest of tranquility in Oyo State. That is why we withdrew the application. We reviewed our position and we said it is best we withdraw the application for peace to reign.
Still in Oyo State, the Oyo State Police Command has declared the former Park Management System Disciplinary Committee Chairman, Mukaila Lamidi, also known as Auxiliary, wanted. The police say he is wanted for unlawful possession of substances suspected to be drugs, illegal possession of firearms, and his connection in the lethal attacks of some members of Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria, Oyo State Branch. Now, representatives of Channels Media Group were among the latest visitors to the home of the late founder of Dar Communications PLC, Chief Raymond Dokpesi. The station manager at Channels Television Abuja, Mr. Chamberlain Uso, who led the team, described the death of the media owner as a great loss to the nation.
Senior officials of Channels Television Abuja arrived at the home of the founder of Dar Communications PLC, Chief Raymond Dokpesi, who died on Monday, May the 29th, 2023. They're here to pay a condolence visit on behalf of the chairman of the Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, who's not in the country at the time of the death of Chief Dokpesi. The team is received by some relatives of the deceased. The team, which is led by the Abuja station manager, Mr. Chamberlain Oso, described the news of his death as a shock to the media industry, adding that he left an indelible footprint in the nation's democracy by championing the freedom of the media.
The management commiserates with the Dokpesi family. It's a very, very tough one for the industry at this point in time. So myself, my colleagues, we're all here to commiserate with the family. And at this difficult time, it's one that the industry will definitely feel this loss.
The family is grateful that Channels Television is identifying with them in their time of grief.
There's a very close relationship with the founder of your organization, Mr. John and Shola Momo. I know very well that he used to come to our house in Lagos, in BI, and I equally want to say thank you to him, because anything that we do within the family, he's always there.
Obviously, I know that my father had so many more things he wanted to do. I had more aspirations for even years to come, and as though what has happened, we too must carry on his legacy.
His relatives believe he lived a life worthy of emulation.
I think he's a very charismatic man, and in that sense, I will possibly most remember his personal warmth, his empathy, his sense of duty and responsibility as well.
A former presidential spokesperson, Mr. Segun Adeniyi, also described the demise of the media icon as a great loss to the nation.
It was not only in the media industry that he was a pioneer, he was also the pioneer of shipping line in Nigeria with the African, actually on the continent, with the African shipping line, which of course did not survive, but at least he pioneered the effort. So he has always been a pioneer, whichever industry he is in.
Chief Raymond Dokpesi, who hails from Edo State, pioneered private broadcast industry in Nigeria, and he will be remembered for his contribution to the media industry in the country.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Gloria. We continue in Borno State, where insecurity and climate change have resulted in food shortage, resulting in increased levels of hunger, especially among internally displaced persons. An increasing number of children are also becoming severely malnourished. Our correspondent Emperor Simon reports on the situation in one of the IDP camps in the state.
Borno State has been the epicenter of the insurgents in the northeast region, which has lasted for 14 years. Although the sounds of explosives and gunfire seem to be growing faint by the day, the impact of the conflict and climate change on livelihood in the state is enormous.
Peace is gradually returning to Borno State, and life is picking up, especially in the urban centers like Maiduguri, the state capital. But what is the situation on the fringes? That's what we're set to find out.
We board an helicopter at the Maiduguri airport to go to Damasak local government area. Beneath the sky, vast expanse of land, dry and largely uncultivated. Farming activities appear to have been stalled. We arrive at a military camp where cameras are prohibited, and from there we head to the internally displaced persons camp situated at Government Secondary School, Damasak. The camp is managed by Intersource, a humanitarian aid organization. There are over 32,300 people with about 6,000 households at the camp. Women and children make up more than 70% of the figure, and facilities here are overstretched.
Each of these tents is built for an household, which comprises between 5 to 9 people. Women and children stay under such despicable condition which the conflict has forced them into. The weather is hot, but they have no option. At least this is where safety is for now.
This predominantly farming community of people have been sacked from their homes by attacks by armed groups in addition to the flood disaster witnessed in 2022. Their source of livelihood is gone and they are in dire need of food.
We don't have water. We don't have drugs in the hospital.
Only a measure of beans was given to us.
The supplied food and other essentials by donor agencies are not enough to go round. The men have to engage in some other kind of trade in order to eke out a living and to meet the needs of their families.
I never get food. You see me? Just Nahala this work now. When I do, I will get food with my family. So the food never enough for us.
The most affected are the children. They are at risk of losing their lives. Meters away is a nutrition and stabilization center managed by Action Against Hunger, a non-governmental organization where dozens of children suffering from acute malnutrition and other underlying health conditions are being attended to. Usman is 7 months old but weighs only 2.9 kilograms. His 30-year-old physically challenged mother says he has not been getting food to eat. She's afraid for his life, having lost 3 children already to malnutrition.
I'm scared. I don't know what to do.
Doctors are concerned about the increasing number of children whose lives are at risk.
Some keep recurring, malnutrition. They come, we manage them, discharge, and sometimes they even come back with the same because out there, there is hunger.
Nearly 25 million Nigerians are at risk of hunger between June and August 2023, while the number of children suffering from acute malnutrition in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states alone is expected to rise to 2 million in the year, according to the United Nations Children Emergency Fund, UNICEF, making it imperative for urgent action to be taken by the government, even as donor agencies are expected to scale up their interventions. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
And back to the pump price of petrol. The Lagos State Deputy Governor, Kadri Hamzat, has appealed to residents to exercise patience and see the positive side of the subsidy removal on petrol as a step to move the country forward. The Deputy Governor made the comments during a monitoring exercise of petrol stations in the state. He says the subsidy removal will help reduce importation of petroleum products, which will be of benefit to all Nigerians.
The fuel scarcity and subsidy removal has taken a toll on many Nigerians. In Lagos, the situation has prompted the State Deputy Governor, Kadri Hamzat, to monitor some fuel stations on the island. In Surah, Premier Motor Spirit is being sold at a new pump price of 488 naira per litre, but motorists still have to queue as they hope the situation gets better.
There's a lot of wahala, trust me. It cost me 40,000 naira to buy fuel into my kid's car now for school runs, and it's probably going to last them only a week. 40,000 in 4 places. I don't know what we're going to do in this country.
Because there is no regime of fuel subsidy again, people don't have incentive to hoard anymore. So if in Nigeria I was selling for 185, and in Republic of Benin selling for 650. So that's why the volume that we claim that we use is high. So that volume will crash, because people will have no incentive to take it. You have 48,000 kilometers of border in Nigeria. So there is nothing. You can deploy all your soldiers or your navy there, even if they don't do anything else. People will still, it's market. Now that that is not there, you will notice that in the next 2-3 months, the volume that we claim, and then market will determine the prices.
The story is not different in Awolowo Road, Ikoyi. The Deputy Governor appeals to residents not to engage in panic buying, assuring that the hardship will be reduced as soon as possible.
For us is to make sure that there is no scarcity so that people don't need to rush to come and buy. Prices has gone up and also is displayed, but in terms of volume, they have enough volume. You can see that one of them said they even have time, they've not discharged. So there is no question of scarcity. IMF has told us this is not sustainable, that we are spending trillions of money subsidizing substantially rich people, because it's only 13% that's meant for the less privileged. The 87% in terms of fuel is for people who can afford it. So it doesn't make any sense economically. So the challenge is this: if we are able to claw that money back into the system, then it makes it easier to invest in our health system. It makes it easier to invest in our education. So the things that majority of the people can actually benefit from.
The fuel subsidy removal is already reflecting on transportation costs, and in the next few weeks, Nigerians will be looking forward to palliative measures promised by the federal government to lessen the effect of subsidy removal.
We head now for some business news. Here's Joke Rogers.
Thank you, Millicent. I'll come to that subsidy removal issue in just a moment. But first, I begin with the global food prices, which have dropped to their lowest level since April 2021, following a significant decline in the World Price Index for food commodities in May. In the latest figures reported by the Food and Agriculture Organization, the index averaged 124.3 points, representing a 22% drop from its peak in March 2022, when tension spikes from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The decline in the index was largely driven by falling prices of vegetable oil, cereal, and dairy products. In Nigeria, food inflation, which accounts for the bulk of the country's inflation basket, rose to 24.61% in April from 24.45% in March, according to figures by the National Bureau of Statistics. Annual inflation also rose to 22.22% in April from 22.04% the previous month, as the price of food continued to rise. While the direct impact of the removal of fuel subsidy is yet to be collated and reported, Nigerians have begun to experience what might yet be another new normal, with higher food and transportation prices already setting in. The Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise is asking the federal government to introduce measures to cushion these effects. While commending the move to stop subsidy by President Bola Tinubu, the Chief Executive Officer of the CPPE, Dr. Muda Yusuf, wants the new administration to reduce import tariffs for intermediate products for food processing companies, as most Nigerians spend over 50% of their income on essential commodities alongside transportation costs. Telecommunication firms operating in Nigeria have issued deposit money banks disconnection notices amid a disagreement over unstructured supplementary data service debt worth 120 billion naira. The disconnection notice was given after efforts to get repayments failed to yield results. Chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, Mr. Gbenga Adebayo, says the disconnection has not yet taken effect, but serving of the notice to the banks as part of the withdrawal process. In the U.S., job growth increased more than expected in May despite rising prices and high interest rates. According to the Labor Department, non-farm payrolls increased by 339,000 jobs last month, beating economists' forecasts. Despite strong hiring, the unemployment rate rose to 3.7% from a 53-year low of 3.4% in April. Meanwhile, wage pressures are also subsiding, which should offer some comfort to Fed officials battling to bring inflation back to the U.S. Fed's 2% target. British financial institution Lloyds Banking Group has announced that it will be closing 53 more branches. This is in addition to the 98 it has already revealed this year. This announcement brings the total branch closure expected in 2023 to 144, while 7 site closures have been planned for 2024. Lloyds Banking Group, which includes Halifax, Lloyds Bank and Bank of Scotland, closed the most branches of all the high street banks in 2022, with 186 closures. This was followed by Barclays, which closed 184 sites. And the equities market ends the final trading session of the week in the green as the benchmark index records another marginal close. Ini John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, it's a mixed bag on the top trades counter. FBN Holding closed with a 25 kobo gain on its share price to close at 14 naira 25 kobo. Access Co in the same territory with a 20 kobo increase on its share price to close at 12 naira 40 kobo. There you have. Those are the two that ended up in the green at the close of trade today, while UBA lost from its share price. Now, let's look at the sectors because that UBA's loss brought the banking sector down by 1.55% at the close of trade today, losing that winning streak that it had yesterday. Oil and gas is still keeping up with the green color that it's been having for about 3 days now. Consumer goods has recovered. Congratulations to consumer goods. It's closed at 0.09%, and it's all in the all share index, which is still a slim win, but it's in the green, 0.03% at 55,822.82, and the market cap is still at 30 trillion naira. And that means that the bull is here. Well, what a week from a 5.23% all-share index at the beginning of the week, the first trading day, which was on Tuesday, to 0.03%. What a wave and what a movement. But let's see what next week holds for the market and investor sentiment for next week. That's the stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Back to you, Joke.
That's it on business news. Back to you now, Millicent.
Thank you, Joker. At least 120 people have been killed and hundreds injured after two trains collided in eastern Odisha state in India. The passenger train was said to have derailed before being struck by another on the adjacent track. Though efforts are being made to rescue survivors, there are fears the death toll will rise further. Here's Simon Pusey with other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The governor of Belgorod in Russia says 2 women have been killed in shelling in the border region. Officials in the neighbouring Bryansk and Kursk regions said buildings had been damaged in shelling and an overnight drone attack. There have been dozens of attacks on Russian-controlled regions, including here in the port at Berdansk. Kyiv has so far denied involvement in previous attacks across the border, which it says are carried out by Russian anti-government groups. The UK's Defence Secretary says the path is open for Ukraine to join NATO.
Is literally accelerating peace.
It's after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, speaking at a meeting of more than 40 European leaders in Moldova, said Kyiv wanted to receive a decision on its future in NATO at the Vilnius summit in 6 weeks' time.
Right now, it's obviously in the middle of a war. We don't bring members in the middle of a war, but I think we can all go a long way to helping them with their short and long-term security, both through building and supplies and capabilities, but also with future agreements. And I think what we'll see is no one saying no. We'll see that path is open to Ukraine. But I also think we have to be politically real that, a number of member states are cautious. And the best thing we can do to help Ukraine is now to help them defeat Russia. And then after that is to make sure they're ready and capable and resilient against any future Russian attack. And that allows people to have a space about its future relationship.
The US Congress has approved a deal to lift the country's borrowing limit days before the world's largest economy was due to default on its debt. The bipartisan measure swept through the Senate by a vote of 63 to 36, a day after it cleared the US House of Representatives. President Joe Biden has said he will now enact the measure into law. His signature on the bill will spare the US from a catastrophic default on its $31.4 trillion debt.
Now, Democrats are feeling very good tonight. We've saved the country from the scourge of default, even though there were some on the other side who wanted default, wanted to lead us to default. We may be a little tired, but we did it. So we're very, very happy.
A Texas highway has been hit with severe flash flooding due to heavy rainfall, washing away vehicles and leaving some roads cut off. Video from social media showed vehicles pushed off the side of Highway 87 between O'Donnell and Lubbock, with some submerged in surging floodwater as heavy rainfall continued. The National Weather Service had issued flash flooding alerts through the southern U.S. state of Texas, warning of wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour. The former editor of the Sun newspaper says it is extraordinary that Prince Harry will testify in next week's lawsuit against a newspaper group he accuses of extensive unlawful behaviour. He will become the first senior British royal to give evidence in court for 130 years when he testifies in the case. Harry, King Charles's younger son, will appear in the witness box as part of the case he and more than 100 other celebrities and high-profile figures have brought against Mirror Group newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mirror, Sunday Mirror and Sunday People.
It's extraordinary. I mean, it might get more extraordinary as the minutes and hours go by, but it's something that most senior members of the royal family have strived to get nowhere near for a long time, because you immediately lose control over the situation and you're on oath.
And officials say President Joe Biden is fine after tripping and falling over at an event in Colorado. He stumbled on a sandbag while handing out diplomas at a graduation ceremony for the US Air Force Academy. Mr. Biden, who is the nation's oldest serving president at the age of 80, was helped back onto his feet. He had been standing for about an hour and a half to shake hands with each of the 921 graduating cadets. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. A city that will be disunited. Well, if you're football neutral, that's certainly how you would definitely look at it, as Manchester City and Manchester United will go into Saturday's FA Cup final with everything to play for at the Wembley Stadium. Well, Man City are seeking a 7th FA Cup, while Manchester United are in the hunt for their 13th. Manchester City are on a quest for a treble, only achieved by one other English club. Their city rivals, Manchester United, back in 1999 under Sir Alex Ferguson and Ten Hag's team, would love nothing better than spoiling City's dream.
How you perform individually as a team and all the details during these 90-95 minutes. The final is that it's not important. So what we have done in the past or years ago is one game. In the Premier League we were better than them, not this season, so many years. So but one game is one game. So have to do our best version, to be our best, to beat them.
I think we had a good season, but of course we have a great opportunity to make it a very good season. We want to win, we want to win a cup, and it's not about stopping them, it is about that we win a cup, we have a great opportunity.
And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
And the main news again. The Nigeria Labour Congress today gave the federal government until Wednesday, June the 7th, 2023, to reverse the pump price of petrol or risk a nationwide protest and strike action by workers. Also today, President Bola Tinubu named the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, as his Chief of Staff and former Governor of Benue State, George Akume, as Secretary to the Government of the Federation. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.